breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. The Biden administration still can't tame inflation. Correspondent Ken Lorman with details.
You already know this if you've checked out at the grocery store, filled your car at the gas pump, but the government has made it official. Consumer prices skyrocketed 7% in December as America's inflation rate rose to its highest level since 1982. Rising prices are quickly wiping out pay increases and putting financial pressure on households from coast to coast. Ken Lorman reporting.
Also at townhall.com, New York's Attorney General at a vigil in the Bronx is vowing to investigate the factors behind Sunday's deadly apartment fire. Julie Walker with that report.
Officials say 8 children and 9 adults were killed after a malfunctioning space heater set off a fire and the apartment door was left open, letting deadly smoke fill the building. Bronx resident Vanessa Riddick, who braved the cold to attend the vigil, says it's heartbreaking.
I see these people every day, whether I know them by name or not. You know, they're family.
Several families suffering multiple deaths, many of the victims immigrants from the same area of Gambia. Julie Walker, New York.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says the military organization and Russia have agreed to try to schedule more meetings despite tensions over Moscow's military buildup near Ukraine. But Stoltenberg said that the talks about Ukraine would not be easy. He told reporters there are significant differences between NATO allies and Russia on the issue. He underlined that Ukraine has the right to decide its future security arrangements on its own, and the NATO would continue to leave its door open for new members. On Wall Street, the Dow is ahead 39 points, and the Nasdaq is up 44. More on these stories at townhall.com.
When was the last time you...
When you're hungry for tender brisket or some delicious homemade cobbler, then look no further than Leech Brothers Barbecue, located at 1106 East Henderson in Cleburne, Texas. Leech Brothers has been family-owned and operated since 1950. Take it from me, Taco Joe Orwinski. Todd and his family have been filling my belly breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a long time. Heck, I even have my own booth, open Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Come see them for dine-in, carry-out, and all your catering needs.
If you are trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581.
Hey, there's something you forgot to do. It sure is hot. Are you sweating like a dog? Wait, what? Dogs don't sweat. Oh no, you forgot to get your window tinted. Whether it's the kitchen window that sits in the sun for the hottest part of the day, or you just got new wheels, call Sharp Window Tinting in Burleson. 817-615-9379, or look them up on the web, sharpwindowtint.com.
You're listening to Joco Community Radio.
Well, good evening and welcome to the Reach Across Johnson County show or segment on Joco Community Radio. We appreciate you joining us this evening. You can join us live here on Facebook or download the TuneIn Radio app. It's free. We are live 365 on Joco Community Radio, the voice of Johnson County, Texas. And I am Shari Phillips. I am one of the hosts, and my co-host is.
Hi, I'm Nikki Bowman.
Hey, Nikki. It's so nice to be back in studio again after our holiday break. So I want to mention a couple of things that we've got going on. If you're not familiar with Reach, our mission is to support safe and healthy communities, vital to the well-being of our youth, families, and community. This show will guide you, educate you, and inspire you to be a part of the solution and to reach out and to help make a difference in our communities. What began as a local movement in the city of Midlothian grew to include programs throughout Ellis County with only a few short years. And eventually it expanded into neighboring Johnson County, Texas. And so here we are. A couple of things I do want to mention. We're doing a program. It's a prom attire event, and we are currently looking for gently used, clean prom dresses, suits, and things like that. If someone is willing to make a donation of those. And
I saw where Tiffany had shared that on her Facebook for JoCo Radio.
Oh,
and she
great.
also said that listeners can bring the dresses up here on Wednesdays at 5 when we're up here.
Oh, okay, good deal.
As a drop off as well. And then Elizabeth Scott Bridal in kind of in the Old Town area.
Okay.
Kinda.
Yeah. And we'll go to our Facebook page. We'll have a list of the hours that she's able to accept the dresses there as well. Also, if we have any of the runners that like to participate in any of the 5K runs, Reach Council has an annual fundraiser that we do each year. It's called the Cupid Shuffle 5K. And that is going to be coming up pretty soon. It's Saturday, February the 12th. The race starts at 8:30. It's going to be at the Midlothian ISD Multipurpose Stadium. And so, again, it benefits Reach Council, community and school programs for youth, drug, and alcohol prevention. And you can go to our website. We also share it on the Reach Across Johnson County page as well. But we'd love to have you to register to be able to get the shirts in your sizes. The deadline is looming on that.
I can't believe the date's already coming up for February 12th.
It's coming up really fast.
I'm trying to find it to share it right now as well.
All right. And so I kind of wanted to bring that up. We have a very special guest with us this evening, and I've actually worked with LaViza. We did some trainings together with our drug-free community grants. And hi, LaViza. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I think that was like back in 2010.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? But
Yes.
we've kind of stayed in touch through Facebook and things like that. So our topic this evening is human trafficking, because January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and I knew that LaViza, this was one of her passions. She likes to educate and do things regarding human trafficking, and so I asked her if she would be willing to join us this evening, and she agreed. So again, thank you, LaViza. I'm going to read a little bit on your bio. LaViza Matthews has served as a TXDot traffic safety specialist since 2016 in the Amarillo district. She serves as secretary for Andrea's project. It's a program educating the community that it's not safe to drink and drive. She is a child passenger safety and Smith system instructor. She is a presenter for risky driving issues across the top 17 counties for the state and leads the Vision Zero Amarillo District Coalition. LaViza is also is a certified victim advocate trainer for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and most currently is nationally certified as a NOVA sex trafficking victim assistance and a OSHA certified trainer in human trafficking. So again, welcome.
Yes, and kind of explain to me what that means, the certified trainer, I guess.
Well, gosh, first of all, thank you, Nikki and Shari. I so appreciate you guys bringing this topic. You know, it's so important. So I am first of all, a victim advocate. I used to work for Family Support Services in Amarillo, and I trained women in my community how to be victim advocates. So they would go to the hospital on a sexual assault or domestic violence call, and then they would provide resources to those victims.
Okay.
So.
And I've also, I forgot to flip my page over, but LaViza also serves as the executive director for Impact Futures Drug-Free Community Coalition. And she is very passionate about serving as a voice for those that can't use their own. So she wears a lot of hats too.
You're a busy lady.
At TXDot, you really have to be willing to do what the most pressing issue is.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I tell you what, it's human trafficking. Can you just kind of give us a definition of human trafficking?
Absolutely. So, human trafficking, it's a crime involving the exploitation of somebody for the purpose of compelled labor or for a commercial sex act
Okay.
through the use of force, fraud, or coercion.
Okay.
And
So,
then, so if you
I'm
do
sorry.
have a person that's younger than 18, you don't ever have to prove force, fraud, or coercion.
Oh,
It is a crime regardless of whether you can prove that force, fraud, or coercion. But human trafficking is even surpassing drug trafficking, Sherry.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I have a DEA friend in Oklahoma, and he told me that, and I've always heard this: you sell a person one time. I mean, you sell a drug one time, but you can sell a human being over and over.
Oh,
And he
wow.
told me that in Oklahoma, that human trafficking has actually surpassed drug trafficking.
Wow. That's crazy. That really is. So it's not only sex trafficking, it's labor, forced labor as well. Can you talk
Exactly.
more about
Sure. So the labor trafficking part, really it's not the most compelling thing to talk about when people talk about human trafficking. They always want to talk about young girls in the commercial sex industry or domestic minor sex trafficking. But labor trafficking is actually more prevalent than sex trafficking.
really?
Um, Labor trafficking would be like field labor or construction. And at TXDot, we actually had a group of men who they would show up in a van and they would start working. Well, one day one of our supervisors said, this is weird. Like, it's a lunch break. These guys have no water, and this happened to be in South Texas.
Oh,
He said
wow.
these guys have no water, they have no lunch, and so they got an interpreter, started speaking to these guys, and they said, we all live together. He comes and drops us off. We're just supposed to work, and then at the end of the week, he sends our checks that you guys give him to our families back home.
Mm.
Well, their families back home were not receiving any type of money at all.
Oh,
Oh,
So
geez.
that's
awful.
that's human trafficking. But it can also be like street begging and drug trafficking. It can be child soldiers, forced marriage, domestic servitude, like nannies and house cleaners or hotel workers. But one of the most recent and disturbing things that I have been reading up on is the extraction of organs or tissues and forced surrogacy and ova removal.
Oh,
Those
my.
are mind blowing to me.
I've never even heard of that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Things
I
are a
haven't.
lot different than what we used to, picture or think about when we thought, when we heard human trafficking. It was always like somebody did a snatch and grab or something like that. So it's not even that anymore.
Yeah, that I think that is actually very rarely happening because a trafficker doesn't want to bring a lot of attention to himself, right?
Okay.
So if he were to go to Main Street and grab a 12-year-old girl, she's going to be kicking and screaming. Her mom's going to be there. Everybody's going to be yelling. Everybody's going to take pictures of the license plate when this guy drives away. So he's going to bring a lot of attention to himself. But that's not how trafficking works. It
Yeah.
is much more surreptitious than that. A trafficker will get you to trust him. He finds out what your vulnerabilities are. We had a 13-year-old girl from one of our junior highs. Um, she ended up missing, and a year later, when she was found, the story she shared with us was that she saw this car following her, and it was a young man. He was handsome, clean cut, nice car, and he
Mm.
said he just kind of yelled out to her, "You look really hot. I have some water here. You can tell it's not open." And he tossed her the water bottle. And she was like, she didn't drink the water because she completely, remembers this whole thing. But she was like, oh, it really is unopened. Well, the next day he drove by again. And this time he had a Coke. And again, she didn't drink the Coke. But she got close to him and he smiled at her and he was like, man, you really are pretty. Remember, this is a 13-year-old girl.
Oh my
He
goodness.
had probably been watching her for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but he knew that she would go home by herself after school.
Mm.
She walked by herself, which meant she was kind of a loner. She would
Mhm.
go into her home, turn the lights on, which meant nobody else was home. Her mom didn't come home until like 9 p.m. every night in a Sonic
Wow.
outfit. And so he knew that she didn't have a dad in the home. So the very first thing he did was court her
Yeah.
and got her to trust him. And he told her one day, tell your mom you're going to spend the whole weekend with one of your new best friends. She'll be so happy about that. And dress up really nice because I want to take you on a date. And this had been going on for about a month. So he picks her up. She gets in the car. She has some makeup on, pretty little 13-year-old girl. And he starts driving. Well, they got to the edge of my city of Amarillo and kept going. And she said, where are we going? And he turned around, and he looked at her and he said, shut up. And they drove all the way to Oklahoma. By then she's just sobbing. He takes her into a house. Well, yanked her out of his car, and he was like, just get out. And she was just bawling. She's, please take me home. Please take me home. Takes her into the house. She was there for a year.
Oh my gosh.
Being used as she would clean. She was made to have sex with random people. I mean, that was her life for a year. And finally, a nosy person like myself, like a Gladys person, made a phone call to the police, and she said, there's cars coming and going here. I think that it's drug trafficking.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the cops got there, and there were 3 other girls besides our little victim.
Oh my gosh.
And it was sex trafficking, labor trafficking. But that's how it manifests itself.
So it wasn't even social media. This was a relationship that they built in person.
Yeah. She trusted him. And it took a while, but he was perfectly willing. I mean, he got a year worth of profit out of her. So he was perfectly willing to spend that extra time so that she would completely trust him. And
So
her
that's
mom,
part of the grooming process that they're doing now.
yeah, grooming. That's the perfect word for it.
Jeez. Yeah, I've actually heard that even into some of our school districts, they plant people in there to kind of recruit, tell them that they're going to go to a party and things like that, and then get caught up in the situation, not realizing what it was exactly that they're being, or things that are being done to them until they can't get out.
Yeah.
And that's really
used us.
scary. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I've heard that too, that a lot of times, drugs is a big part of the human trafficking. They give the kids the drugs or drug them without their knowledge and things like that, and I guess makes them more pliable or whatever for whatever they have planned. I know that you sometimes talk about the root causes for human trafficking. Can you share that with us?
Yeah. It's so sad, you guys. It's the fact that it's economics, supply and demand.
Okay.
So demand for cheap labor, demand for sex with minors, that drives human trafficking. There are countries where there's a lack of human rights and legal protections for vulnerable groups. Human trafficking generates a stable, regular source of income for criminal networks, cartels, gangs, solo traffickers. And then sometimes just a simple lack of legitimate economic opportunities to survive will create the opportunity for a trafficker to step in and take advantage. So you can almost sum the whole thing up in vulnerabilities.
Yes.
So the more vulnerable you are and the more time that a trafficker might spend with you, then he's going to figure out what those vulnerabilities are. Another one is natural disasters. When the earthquake happened in Haiti, so some of the field workers said people were coming in and just taking kids right out of the hospital, kids that that they had been found and their parents weren't around, and people were just coming in and taking them.
Oh my word.
Yeah, so it got really, really bad. So war, conflict, political instability, all of those things can be root causes. If you have the vulnerability of just being a woman, that's huge in other third world countries. That is a huge vulnerability.
Well, I mean, I guess they sex traffic or traffic guys as well as girls, and I mean, it's not limited to certain ages or anything anymore either, is it?
Right, because it depends on what you want that person for. If you want a nanny, you're probably going to choose a.
Yeah, I think that's where this is interesting to me, because I've always thought of human trafficking as automatically it's like sex slavery.
Yes.
This isn't the
Yeah.
deal.
And that
It's
is-
a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So the National Labor Organization says that there are 24.9 million human trafficking victims across the world, and only 4.8, I say only, but only 4.8 are sex trafficking.
Wow.
The rest is labor trafficking. That could be child labor. It could be labor trafficking that does turn into sex trafficking. But for the most part, it's labor trafficking.
Labor. Wow. And it's not just, I mean, because I know that, people come across, without, proper identification and things like that. I guess the coyotes bring them over. And, I've heard that that's where, they hold people and use them for
Hostage,
labor and stuff.
kind of?
Yeah, hostage type deal, and until they pay up, and then sometimes they even don't do that then. And so
Right. There's human smuggling and human trafficking, and they are different. But sometimes human smuggling can turn into human trafficking.
human
You're
trafficking.
exactly right.
What's the difference?
So smuggling is when a person has given their consent. They will oftentimes pay, and within their knowledge, they know that it might be a degrading way that they're getting over, like in the trunk of a car or whatever, but they have given their consent. Whereas a person who is in human trafficking, they're being exploited. They don't give their consent for not being paid or for being exploited in the sex trafficking industry. So it's about consent.
Okay.
Wow.
Didn't know any.
I know this whole
How
thing
did-
blows my mind.
Can I ask how you got into this as your?
Yeah, so back in 2004, I was already working for the Rape Crisis Center, and I got a phone call to go out to the hospital, and they said that they thought that they had 3 victims. They thought all children. They were 7, 6, and 4. So I went into the family room, and the dad was in there, and he seemed kind of nervous, and I'm like, okay, usually dads are mad and moms are very sad. Well, the mom was asleep on the love seat, had her legs kind of just draped over, and the dad seemed very nervous. So he had a Walmart bag and he tried to hand it to me. He said, I have evidence here. I cut some material from my daughter's clothes. I swabbed her, and I'm just like, what?
Oh, wow.
So I said, well, I can't take any evidence. So let me go back to the ER and talk to the law enforcement officer. So I went to the back and found the cop, and I said, okay, this guy's he goes, I'm not taking anything from him. I think he's trafficking his kids.
Wow.
And I was like, what? So he said, yeah, he lives at one of the motels in Amarillo, and I think he's trafficking his kiddos.
His own kids.
Yeah, they were 6 and 7. And he was not, the 4-year-old had not been assaulted yet, but the 6-year-old and the 7-year-old, when we went back to do the sexual assault exams, just hearing their words and the things that they were telling us, I was just, it just broke my heart.
Gosh.
So that was the very first time that I came into contact with trafficking. And after that, I'm like, okay, I'm in. Let's start raising awareness.
Yeah.
And this was the biological children of this man?
Yes, biological.
Oh my gosh.
How do people do that with their own children? Oh,
I know. They would trade their children for drugs, money.
If the police officer thought that that's what he was doing, I'm not understanding why. I mean, obviously he got arrested.
It's always a process. Oh, he got arrested.
Okay.
Okay,
But
good.
it's a process. They have to get the evidence, and they have to, and it took a while. And one of the things about the foster care system that is pretty upsetting, there's a lot of things about the foster care system that are very upsetting, but one of them was that they remanded the custody of these kiddos into the same family. So
you mean that they kind of did
grandmother-
a kinship thing where they went, instead of going
Yes,
into foster
they
care,
went
with
to the
family?
grandmother,
Wow.
and that meant that the dad could come visit them.
Oh.
So then they put all 3 of those kiddos into the foster care system. And in trying to stay in contact with them, those children were molested again in the foster care system.
Through their, I guess their foster families, this would then be not related to them?
Yes.
It's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
One of the statistics that I've read is that 50% of kids who are in the foster care system report being trafficked at one time or another. Half of them.
Oh my Lord.
That's where my background is I've worked in foster care agencies for nearly 15 years. And
Oh, wow.
for 3 or 4 years, I was a recruiter, and my job was to kind of decipher who can come be a foster parent who can. And it's just as scary as when you're removing kids from their home and you're going to place them. I mean, it's hard to make sure that you're doing the right decisions. And, you know, you really don't know. You try to do your best. It's not like, I don't think any of the agencies are wanting to sign up. I don't think families that they think that's their background, but these families are really good at hiding everything.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of these people, I mean, they're looking at them, you wouldn't necessarily know that they're involved in this. And I think that's what I've heard before is that, you know, sometimes they're surprised. It's not like somebody
you really learn to kind of go off your gut instinct, and it's weird when something can be, you can't put, you know, a name on why that family's giving you the creeps or the wrong feeling. And the thing is, legally, you have to come up with the reason on why you're not licensing them, or then it's gonna become messy. I mean, it's kind of hard just to say, oh, we don't want to just because we don't want to. You have to have a reason, or I mean,
those poor kids, my goodness.
It's all, that's horrible.
I'm glad that you would trust your gut. That's really something that I've always told all of my victim advocates. I've always told anybody who comes up on any kind of circumstance that you think might be trafficking, if you get that weird gut feeling, there's probably something going on.
Do you have any suggestions on like, if you do get that gut feeling, what kind of things should you do?
The very first thing I would do is take a mental picture of what's going on.
Okay.
Calm yourself. And then some of the things that I've done is I will get my phone and I'll pretend like I'm texting somebody, and I'll be up like this. I'll put it on silent. I'll take pictures, and I'll smile like I'm having this conversation with somebody on my phone. And I might even send a message, but in that message, I'm typing out everything I see. It was a white van. There were 2 kids. They looked like they were under 18. They had just whatever, but I will take a mental picture. And one of the things that I always try and encourage people, besides just go, follow your gut instinct, is to don't worry about whether you're right or not about it being trafficking. And I say that, what I mean is, let the professional, make the phone call, and then let the professional on the other end of the line make the call or the decision as to whether that is human trafficking or not. It kind of takes some pressure off of you. I've had a lot of people say, I'm scared what if it's not trafficking? I'm going to feel like a dummy, or I'm going to feel like it's a false, report or whatever. Don't. Just say, look, this is what I saw. I've heard some people talk about human trafficking. My gut says that there's something wrong here, and I wanted to report it. I'm going to let the professional on the other end of the line decide whether it's trafficking or not, but I've done my due diligence.
It's so important to do that. And I think as women, we are more, I guess, in tune with that instinctive nature.
Yeah.
And we do need to just listen to our gut sometimes.
Always listen to it.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got little over 2 minutes left. Can we go ahead and talk about the outline for the AMP model?
Sure. So that is one of the things that TXDot uses to describe what human trafficking actually is. Okay. So it's AMP. The A is the action, the M is the means, and the P is the purpose. So action, when you take the law apart and you break it down, it talks about recruiting. Well, that includes the proactive targeting of somebody who's vulnerable. Okay. A trafficker who's actually seeking out somebody who has an unstable home life and then starts grooming them. The harboring part of the law, because the law lists all of these things, right? It includes isolating, confining, and monitoring somebody, sheltering or hiding a trafficked person. Okay. Then there's transporting. That includes the movement and arranging travel, and providing includes giving to another individual. Now, I want you to know that you don't have to have movement for it to be human trafficking. Some people are trafficked out of their own home. And then obtaining. So that includes forcibly taking or exchanging something for the ability to control a person. Acquiring. And that's where it gets sticky, because you'll see these big headlines where they're talking about there was a big human trafficking bust, and these are all the people down this big list that were charged with human trafficking. And they'll say, I know that guy. He's a coach. Why was he charged with human trafficking? Well, the reality is that if you are a person who has obtained somebody who is being trafficked, that makes you a human trafficker.
Oh my
You're not
gosh.
just a John or a buyer, you are a human trafficker, because the word soliciting is in there. That includes offering something of value like money or drugs or whatever in exchange for using that person, labor or sex. And then patronizing includes receiving something of value. Then the means, that's the force, fraud, and coercion. Man, the stories I have on force are just horrible. The fraud, that's where the manipulation comes in. A lot of people will stay in a trafficking situation because they've been so manipulated. I had a young 16-year-old girl. Well, and I may save this story for
Because we'll probably start hearing the music here in just a second to go to commercial. So everybody, please come back and join us for the second half of the show. We've got a lot more information. LaViza is going to talk to us about what we can do to help stop human trafficking. So stay tuned.
I really want to share this story with you guys.
Okay, awesome. We'll do that as soon as we come back.
Sounds great.
Here's a great way to save money on your prescription medications. If you take Viagra or Cialis, we can give you a way to pay as little as $2 a pill. Compare that to prices as high as $60 per tablet. These pills work for men and women to improve their sexual performance. And now for the price of 2 or 3 pills, you can get nearly 100. There's no need to pay expensive prices for Viagra or Cialis. Call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. We offer 24/7 service and always free delivery and confidential packaging. Change your life for the better and have fun. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
800-627-3988. 800-627-3988. 800-627-3988. That's 800-627-3988.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Out of dead carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleveland, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleveland, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
You're listening to JoCo Community Radio.
Welcome back to the second half of Reach Across Johnson County here at JoCo Community Radio. JoCo Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 365 on the TuneIn Radio Network. To listen, go to tuneinjoco.com and download the free app. All of our shows can be found on any one of your favorite podcast platforms such as Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, and Spreaker. Check out our lineup and more on jococommunityradio.com. Thanks for tuning in. This episode and more is brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep, Nona Reed, at 844.tex.hail. That's 844-839-4245. And we've got LaViza Matthews with TXDot that's here talking with us today about Human Trafficking Awareness Month, which is held every January. But this is something that we really need to be aware of all the time. LaViza, you were going to share a story with us when we came back.
Yeah, so we were talking about the AMP model, the action, the means, and the purpose. Well, and we've been talking about vulnerability. So I want to share a story about a young girl. We'll call her Kim.
Okay.
That's not her real name, but so when Kim was 2 years old, her dad was killed in a car crash. And her mom was in that same crash and had a really bad back injury. So her mom got on hydrocodone. Now, I tell you all of this because I want you to begin to see the vulnerabilities that my friend Kim had.
Okay.
So when she was 13, her mom at this point is still really addicted to pain meds.
Oh, wow.
They're living off the Social Security of the dad, so they still had a fairly decent home. In fact, in a really nice part of town. When Kim was 13, she got pregnant and had her baby at 14, and then so she quit school. So I'm listing these things as vulnerabilities.
Yes.
There's no dad in the home. Mom is addicted to drugs and kind of out of it. You know, she really wasn't concerned a lot with Kim's issues. Kim gets pregnant. Kim quits school. So she has all these different vulnerabilities. Well, when she was 16, she started working at the mall here in Amarillo.
Okay.
And two young girls came in, and for about 2 or 3 weeks, they visited with her. They told her how beautiful she was. And they were like, what are you doing working here? And she had confided in them about her mom's drug issue. So they told her, hey, we heard about this big party in Lubbock, and they're going to have a ton of drugs there. You can get those drugs and bring them back here and sell them yourself, make a ton of money. And by this point, Kim is now trusting these two girls. So they told her, tell your mom, that you're just going to hang out with your friends this weekend. So Kim's like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. So they pick her up. She's all dressed up for a party, right? Looks beautiful. Right. And Kim is gorgeous. She is stunning. So they take her to what she thought she was going to go to Lubbock. Her mom thinks she's going to be in Amarillo. They really take her to Midland, Odessa.
Oh my
goodness. They take her to a house, big pool, gorgeous house. She gets inside, and she's then sexually assaulted 19 times that night.
Oh, no.
So when daylight comes, she gets up and she's furious. I mean, she's really, she's an amazing girl. She gets up and she's mad. She's like, I'm leaving, straight to the pimp's face. And he goes, go ahead, you can. She was like, really? You're not going to try and keep me? Because I know you made, he goes, yeah, probably about $8,000 off of you last night. Oh, she goes, and you're just going to let me go. Because at this point, she's pretty street savvy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he says, you can go, but when you get there, and he reaches into her purse, pulls out a picture of her little boy and her mom, and he rips it in half. And he said, when you get there, your baby boy's throat is going to be cut, and so will your mom's. And she was like, I'll stay. So he didn't have to chain her up or tie her up. He didn't have to give her drugs. Those invisible chains, that was enough to keep her. So I tell you that story because I want you to understand the M part of the AMP model.
Okay.
It means that's the manipulation. He could have used force, and some traffickers do, but he didn't have to. He used fraud. He used coercion, the threats of serious harm or physical restraint against her or against her family, the psychological manipulation.
Yeah.
Many times we see that there's their documentation, like their ID or their passport, has been taken. Also, one of the ways that he kept Kim there was by shaming her. He said, you're going to get back and your baby daddy is not going to want you because you've been used so much. You're all used up. You're ugly now. He would tell her all those things. So that shame kept her there also.
I want to know how Kim got away.
This is wild. So Kim's uncle actually works for the FBI.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't think it would have ever happened.
Yeah.
They knew how to ping. They watched where her phone pinged because at one point in the full year and a half that she was gone, she made a phone call to her mom off of another traffic victim's phone.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, Mama, I just want you to know I'm safe. I'm okay. I'm alive. And she was like, Kim, where are you? She said, I can't tell you. And immediately had to hang up.
Yeah.
So that coercion, that fear, was all there. Well, they used her phone to figure out where that was. And they did a big
sting operation
and did a big sting operation and found her in Oklahoma City
Oh my
But
gosh, it's
during
crazy
that
to me
year and a half,
going
she
on
had
in
been,
Oklahoma.
yeah. And now Oklahoma is huge human trafficking. It's really big. They they walk the streets there. They are online there. Backpage was one of the old websites that during President Trump's um, time, he made sure that web page got taken down. So that was amazing. I love Trump for that reason.
Yeah.
So it's the purpose, of course, that's the P part of the ANT model. The involuntary servitude, I mean, all of those things. These people never entered into this dream job that they thought that they were going to have to be abused like that.
Yeah.
That,
Well, thank God she had a family member that, that
And
was in some form of law
It's
enforcement.
crazy to me that when she calls her mom, she uses the word safe.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's
I'm
the
safe.
least that
I'm
she-
alive. And I will tell you this too, that something that people don't think about is that as an advocate, I lived through this with her mom. I lived through the attempted suicide that her mom had. I lived with the this constant thing of checking on her. I met her family. I mean, I met her mom's. I mean, the boyfriend. I met the baby daddy. I met the baby. I mean, because you just get you become part of their life because you are their advocate and you want to help make sure that, I mean, you don't get involved as far as the law enforcement side, but I did run interference with Kim's mom and law enforcement. I had one of the cops tell me, he said, that she is a known prostitute. I said, she's 16.
Yeah.
Children,
That's
there's no
what the
such thing as a
cop
child prostitute.
So Kim was missing, and that was kind of what the cop was labeling her as.
Yeah. She's
How
a
long
known
was she?
runaway. She's a
Year and
known
a half.
prostitute.
Year and a half. Okay.
Year and a half.
Good grief.
And after she came back, the psychological manipulation was still there. So she felt such shame that she really did not want to. Well, she said, I'm not going back to school.
Yeah.
And so we did some things to help her get her GED and then help her get a job. And at one point, her trafficker, who, he got busted. He got 40 years.
Good.
To me, that's not even long enough.
No, really.
No. Because she wasn't the only victim. First of all, the two girls that made friends with her, those used to be trafficking victims. And actually, they still were. But they became traffickers themselves because they started recruiting. Because they recruited Kim, they got 10 years each.
Wow.
And at that point, those girls were only 18 and like 20.
Good grief.
I mean, 40 years to do that to somebody's life, that's just the system is so crazy.
It is. It is.
I mean, that man. Go ahead.
I was going to say, at one point, he contacted her, and his whole family contacted her. They threw trash in their yard.
Afterwards.
Oh.
So she was terrified. Of course, they all were. So we relocated them to to a new home here.
Mm-hmm.
But her trafficker started writing her letters,
Oh,
and because she felt, he never hit her. Although one point, I just think this is insane. He threw lighter fluid on her and threatened to light her on fire.
Oh my gosh.
And once she was rescued, it's not just like, oh, I'm home. And you see this happen in the movies where they're all so happy and now everything's better. It's not. We had to put her in a soft lock facility. She had to do therapy. She had to journal. And I made sure that she wrote that down. He poured lighter fluid on me. He threatened to light me on fire. So after this guy started writing her from prison, because he had taken her across state lines, it was a United States attorney that handled the case. We called him and said, we just found a letter that this guy wrote. And that attorney was like, no. And he put that guy in isolation.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Yeah. But there were several times where Kim just would break down and just angry because now she's in a safe place. And when you're in a place where you're safe and you know that these people love you and they want to, help you, you can let all that anger out. You vomit that out and it comes out projectile vomit and it's angry and it sounds crazy. And you're like, I don't this is terrible. But the stuff that she suffered through
Bless her
At one
heart.
point, her mom said, "Did they put you on birth control?" She's like, "No."
Oh,
She said, "God helped me and protected me, and I never got pregnant." But many of the
That's
human
a
trafficking
miracle.
victims, yeah, many trafficking victims will get pregnant. So it's hard to leave that life when you got a baby there.
Well, that or there's no telling what they do with the baby,
I know
you
that
know,
was
with
what was
the
going through my mind too. Like, oh my
I
gosh.
mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but there's so many people out there that are paying for like black market babies that
Yeah.
Yeah, there could be that. But if a trafficker took your baby and you're already a trafficking victim, you would probably lose it. You'd probably leave or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah, that's
So
true.
he's going to probably keep that baby there as an incentive for you to stay there.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, you and me have a baby together now. We're a family, and use all that manipulation to keep that person there.
So let's talk about some common street terminology.
Yeah.
What
should
Okay.
we be watching for? Or what kind of things would we hear?
There's a lot. You would hear a trafficking victim refer to herself as maybe a wifey,
Wifey.
or a wifey, or as part of a stable. You would hear the two girls that were recruiting. You would hear them referred to as bottom girls. So the girls that take care of the other girls, that make the other girls do everything, because all these girls together and they all get on their period at the same time. And I don't know if I can say all that, but anyway.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Sorry. You would want another girl to handle all that. And they do that for that trafficker.
Oh, my word.
Caught a case that might be when a pimp or a victim has been arrested and charged with a crime.
Okay.
So they might say that to the cop. You might hear somebody say that they're on the circuit or the game. In Oklahoma, they tend to use the word the game. And I had a victim. It was called the Oklahoma Pipeline.
Okay.
And it was where victims are moved like through a series of locations from Minnesota to New York, but they would always go through Oklahoma, and that would be, you always made a ton of money in Oklahoma.
Wow.
You might.
I thought it was more the DFW area because of all the highways, and we're sitting here hearing more about Oklahoma, which is kind of crazy.
I-40 runs right through Oklahoma City.
Wow.
So any place, honestly, that you've got like a big interstate, or a port, for example, Houston. Oh my gosh, Houston. I did a training where it was called Love 146, Not a Number, and it's a training for you to talk to youth about human trafficking, because you wouldn't give them the same training that you would like for here, for example.
Right.
You would talk to them about vulnerabilities. So I went down to Houston for that training, and at one point, the people who were leading the training said, "We want you to go down to the port with us so that you can see what we see every single day."
Oh, gosh.
The girls that were walking, the girls that are being brought in from Thailand, Vietnam, Nigeria.
Golly.
We were in a van. First of all, you don't feel safe, but I thought, oh my gosh, all these babies are out there.
Yeah.
It's just heart-wrenching.
Makes you sick.
It does. Once upon a time, I would have thought, nothing like that happened here in Texas and everything. But I mean, I hear about, happening in our own community. That's crazy. Isn't that crazy?
We are a border state. So
Yeah.
California's number one, Texas is number two, Florida is number three. And the only thing that they're large, but the main thing that they have in common is the fact that there's a border.
There's a border. Wow.
Yeah. So
Any other? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like at truck stops, you might hear somebody say lot lizard.
Okay, I have heard that terminology before.
That means it's a person who's probably maybe an older prostitute who at one point you would definitely consider a human trafficking victim, or currently maybe even a human trafficking victim. You might hear kitty stroll. That would be where
kitty stroll.
Kitty stroll, yeah. Where that's an area known for prostitution that features younger type victims. And remember, there are no child prostitutes. You don't have to prove force, fraud, or coercion. A kid can't consent to that.
Right.
So,
so it is still 18 at that point if they're under 18, or is it?
They
17?
are under 18.
Under 18. Okay.
Under 18. Once they hit 18, they become an adult.
Okay.
So you might hear family or folks where you think, yeah, family, oh, your family,
Mm-hmm.
but it might be a little bit of a different family,
Okay.
like your sister wives and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So a track, a game, a trick, of course. I think everybody knows that now. So
Okay.
yeah, those are some.
We have
common
about 9 minutes left, so
There's
let's
a lot of stuff that we want to cover.
let's talk about some red flags.
indicators.
What
Yeah,
are some things that our listeners can watch out for?
absolutely. Okay, so does that person appear to be disconnected from their family and their friends, schools? Have they stopped attending school? Have they had a sudden or dramatic change in behavior? Is the person disoriented or confused, or are they showing signs of mental or physical abuse? Are they fearful or timid or super submissive? Do they appear in the company of maybe another person who is the one who answers all the questions for them, and this kid or this young person can't speak for themselves? So it could be, okay, so when I do presentations for law enforcement and ERs, and especially the 24 ER
Mm-hmm.
places, I always tell them, separate everybody.
Yeah.
Separate the person who has the issue from the older person or the person that's with them. Separate them.
Okay.
Talk to them separately. And then you'll watch, does that person have like an inconsistent story? Are they, do they know what day it is? Do they know where they are? Not like, are you in the hospital, but did you know that you're in Oklahoma City? Did you know that you're in Amarillo, Texas? But ask them first. Don't give them a leading question. Ask them first. Ask them if, okay, so at one point with TXDot, we travel a lot, and I was in a hotel, and I always make it a habit of talking to the housekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
And back in August of 2018, I approached a housekeeper, and I always start the conversation, hey, my room is so clean. Could I have another conditioner? And I use a lot of hand motions because I know that there's hallway cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm smiling and I say, oh, you did such a good job. So is this what you enjoy doing? I mean, if you had the opportunity to leave here and maybe go to school or go home to see your family, could you do that freely? And this girl went and put her finger to her lips. Shh.
Really?
And she had her back to the camera. She knew where all the cameras were. So I smiled and I said, well, I want you to know that I'm a victim advocate, and I would love to help you. And I'm smiling right now because I don't want anybody to think. She goes, no, I understand. Mm-hmm. And I said, I can make a police report for you. I want to help you, or you can do it yourself. What would you like to do? I can give you the number to contact. It's pretty simple. The words be free, like BEFREE,
mm-hmm.
233-733. I said, just text help to be free. And, a lot of times you don't get to know what the outcome was, but she said, thank you so much. And I'm sure that she did it because she was very vocal.
Oh, that's
So,
good.
very,
Well, I know that we want to, there's probably more red flags and everything, but I do want us to make sure that we allow time to talk about
how to get help.
I watch, how to get help and to see something, say something, and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So first of all, my first suggestion is to download an app.
Okay.
You can do the iWatch Texas.
Okay.
Which is a great app. That particular one, you can report anything. You can report.
And that's listed in the comments as well.
Oh, good. Yeah. So you can report, like, I saw this kid. He looked like he had a gun and he was walking into the school. You can use iWatch Texas to report that.
Okay.
iWatch TX. One of the apps for human trafficking that I love is Truckers Against Trafficking.
Okay.
That one is amazing. So I have it right here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but you can report activity immediately, and it'll immediately dial the 888-3737-888.
Okay. What is it called again? Truckers Against
Trafficking. Truckers Against Trafficking, TAT.
So people can just go in and search their app store and get all these.
Download that app, because then it will also give you the red flags for sex trafficking, separate red flags for labor trafficking. It will give you resources like books to read. It'll it talks about the Polaris project. It's got training. You can do everything with that app. I love it so much.
Okay.
And if you are concerned about labor trafficking, the one that I would suggest, it's called, it's iLab Sweat and Toil.
Okay. I did pull that one up too. Okay.
I love it. It lists all of the countries. It talks about whether those countries are complying with the whole child trafficking stuff.
Okay.
It talks about what goods come from those countries that are being made with child labor. Oh my gosh, phenomenal. I would say those 3 apps are the very best. If you travel a lot, you can download something called Traffic Cam.
Okay. I did download that one too because we do travel some
Good.
too.
Yeah. So what you do is you end up taking a picture of the inside of your hotel room, and they will come turn that into the Traffic Cam app, and then they will compare that because you have put
That's neat.
the city and the state where you are, and they will compare that with other pictures that they've seen online from like sex trafficking stuff or whatever. They'll compare those, and they'll be, oh, we know where that hotel is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
it's
I've heard
awesome.
of that once before. I didn't know what the app was or anything like that, but I knew that there was supposed to be something that, like if you went to hotels and stuff, to take pictures in the
Yeah.
room and post them. That way, when
That's it.
somebody, put somebody out there or they show pictures,
Oh,
that
is
helps them
that
to
why they
locate.
do?
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm catching on to what that was about.
Yeah. And what's the best way? I've got a number here to report suspicion.
Right.
So
That
the
one will go to law enforcement, like
okay.
at the national level.
Okay.
If you see something happening and you're pretty sure, oh my gosh, that's trafficking. These 2 girls walked up to this younger girl and they're trying to get her to get into their van because we're gonna have a Bible study somewhere. No, call 911.
So just call 911. That way
Yeah.
your local people get there and they get there quick.
Yes.
Okay.
Put yourself in a safe place. You don't want to endanger the life of the trafficking victim or of yourself. So make sure that you're in a safe place to report. And then, like I said, I am huge on this. I will pick up my phone and I have it on silent. I'm laughing and I'm pretending I'm texting, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, they sent me a funny picture, ha ha ha, or I'm watching TikTok or whatever, and I'm texting. Holy crap, this is what I'm seeing. Or I call 911. I put them on speaker. Like if I'm in my car and I'm seeing something else happen.
Now that you're aware of what to see, how often do you actually see stuff?
Oh, I just heard about a story Sunday that happened at TXDot with one of our safety officers. So all of our travel information centers, they've seen it happen.
Oh, wow.
So at all the TXDot travel information centers, we have posters in the bathroom that have the Be Free, the 233-733, and you can text help to that. You can also text info to that.
I gave that one.
You did do that one. Okay.
Info.
What was the number for the help? What did you say? It's Be Free.
233-733. Be Free. Right. That's what that stands for.
So that's so that's if you text. You text help or info.
Help or info. Correct.
Okay. To the Be Free. Okay. So
so if that girl does not feel safe, calling 911, hey, I'm in trouble, and I need help or whatever, she might have her phone that the trafficker has let her have.
Okay.
And she can text that, and then she can delete that text.
Okay. And then the Human Trafficking Hotline is 1-888-373-7888.
Yeah, and the way that I always say that is 888-3737-888.
Oh, that's good. It helps you to be able to remember that. Okay.
Yeah. That's the only way that I remember it. I'm getting old, so.
Me too. Okay, so we're down into our last minute. Is there anything that you want to, if you had a last minute to tell it, what do you think?
Don't be afraid to report. You may save somebody's life.
Okay.
If you're scared that it might not be trafficking, just write down everything that you've seen, and then when you're safe to report, call one of those numbers if it's not an emergency, and let the professional on the other end of the phone just say, I'm so glad you reported. I don't think that is trafficking. Or maybe they'll say, I think that might be trafficking. So glad you called. You may save somebody's life.
Okay. Awesome.
If it hadn't been for the nosy Gladys calling about in Oklahoma City at that house, our little victim from Sam Houston Junior High would have never been rescued.
Oh my gosh.
Be a Gladys. Be okay. I'm totally okay with being a Gladys. My husband lovingly calls me Gladys.
That's awesome. LaViza, thank you so much. It was great to have you on with us. And thank you,
Absolutely.
everybody,
Thank
for
you.
tuning in.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Is that it, ladies?
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, JoCo Community Radio.
Breaking news this hour, townhall.com. I'm John Scott. The Biden administration